I recorded the next clip earlier this week, and it was a moment where I felt like I was like regressing for a second in regards to family stuff. And what ended up happening is the day after, I felt like this transcendent feeling. And I was like reminded of that quote that's like, you're tested the most when it's time to level up, so don't break. And the transcendent feeling lasted for the next day, and really until today. And as soon as I felt it, I had the urge to make a video clip to put before it to kind of talk about how I felt, and now I'm not really sure. Because it wasn't like I was gonna say like I'm good, like everything's fine, but I think I was gonna like kind of muse about forgiveness and just like how it's not something that can be rushed. You can't like rush or force yourself to let go. You just have to like let yourself go through your process and let yourself like feel stuff, and that eventually you will kind of rise above it. And I think you kind of like microdose it. You kind of like microdose healing. You kind of microdose like accessing these like levels of yourself, because it takes time to like sort of hold it within you, and not identify with like who you are in like this life, to not identify with like the sense of justice that you feel like what you feel like is right. You kind of you know sometimes you can't over identify with it, because if it's causing you like continual pain, and I think this is something that I've kind of been like going back and forth about a lot, because that's when it comes like there's honestly like very few things that I'm like extremely like die hard about, I guess, and I let go of all my exes. I like I've forgiven all my exes. Like forgiven. I've never really I always feel like I'm the villain, to be honest. But my last relationship was took some like effort on my part to kind of work through. But the thing is like it was so much easier, because it's like we're just two idiots. Like we're just like two idiots. We're like the same age. Like we both had like family trauma, you know, and we're just two idiots who like didn't know what we're doing, and like we were both shitty to each other. But the difference for me is that we were on equal playing ground. You're on equal playing ground with your exes. I don't care what anyone says you are, because you don't owe your exes anything. You don't owe like just another random ass adult anything. The place I struggle, and the place where it's really difficult for me to forgive, is when it comes to family and it comes to parents, because this is a situation where one person does not have control and one person does. Even if the person who has control has trauma, at one point the little person who doesn't have control didn't have trauma, and you are going to give them that trauma. And so now you've created an environment where it might sometimes seem like the same kind of toxicity as you and an ex, you know, two people just spiraling out of control. But it's not the same, because that person didn't show up that way. Trauma that gets stored in our DNA aside, you know, trauma from past lives, like that person came in, and I'm not saying everyone comes in as like a perfect, like clean slate with like no personality and they're just like a little, but they are pure light, you know, in all of their complexity. They're pure light. And they're a spiritual awakening wrapped up in a little person, and I'm not sure how to grapple with the fact that people over and over again choose to avoid that spiritual awakening even when it's being thrust upon them. And I'm wondering, like, do we have to, like, do we have to? There's something stuck in my lung right now. Right over here by my heart. Surprise, surprise. Because I just had this moment where I woke up today, I listened to a bunch of like energy frequencies last night and like some like light language meditations and entity removal stuff, and I slept really, really hard for a really long time. But I woke up feeling so heavy and so sore. And so I felt like I had removed something, but it's put me in this sort of like weak and like fragile state. And I just like started talking out loud to my mom and like crying and just kind of saying like, I don't know if I can forgive you. Like I don't know how you could do that. I don't know how you could do this. I just would never do this. And I don't know how you don't feel, you don't see it through my eyes. Like, how do you not, you can't call yourself a mother if you're not willing to see through your child's eyes. And at the end of it, I said the truth of it, which is that, because I think I've grappled with like, we should wish healing for everyone. We should wish healing for everyone, because that's what will truly like solve problems. But I feel like if there's a large part of me that feels like my mother's like peace and like healing might not equate to her understanding me. It might actually pull her further away from me, which was just the proof that like she's like so spiritually separate from her children in a way that feels almost criminal. That it'll be like, well, I'm happy, you know, so like you're good too, right? Peace out. You know, it's not going to cause this like sort of breakdown of like self. Because I worry that like who she is just a person who does this, who like would do this and like doesn't really see much problem with it, you know, like, oh well, it's just life. And so what I ended up kind of admitting is that what I actually want is for her to suffer and for her to feel alone for the rest of her life, and for her to never escape that until she can like humble herself before me and before God. And that like maybe there's nothing else. Like maybe there's no higher plane. Like maybe there's no like why do I have to, maybe there's no like higher more, there's not a way that I can be more saintly than that. Maybe that's just the truth of it. Like when someone fucks you over so bad, someone betrays you so bad and like continues to, despite what they see as efforts to the contrary, it's just, it all comes off fake, it comes off self-serving, it comes off so surface level, it comes off, it's just not enough, it's just not real, it's just like, it's just like so shallow, like it's just, and maybe that's that. And like maybe sometimes we can't ask for more from ourselves when something just like is what it is. And like, you're not a person I would like get coffee with like anyway, so like what does it matter really in the end? Like what is it, what's the loss? What have I ever lost by admitting that like it's just not okay with me? So the next clip will probably help you if you are someone who has experienced dynamics like this and you relate to what I'm saying. Maybe it'll help free you, maybe it'll bring you some solace to know that you're not alone in it and your feelings are valid, your anger is sacred, and maybe this is what rising above it looks like. I will certainly keep you posted on if that changes. I would like to add that when I was having that kind of breakdown and I was kind of like, I was crying, but I was saying angry things, I felt good. Like it felt true, and it felt like, I didn't feel good because there's a part of me that felt like, I felt relieved, and it felt sacred, and it just, there was a part of me that was like, why am I not better? You know, but I don't think that I should have to hold on to that. And I wanted to add that in here because I know in the video I said that I had like a pressure on my chest, on my heart, and so I don't want it to seem like I'm like speaking through just like pure anger. I really think it's more nuanced than that, because as soon as I put the camera down, like the block went away, and so I just think it's like, it's just kind of part of like me trying to talk about it on here. And yeah, like I am by no means interested in or trying to like stay in anger and rage. It's just like truly, I actually feel like in a lot of ways, on a lot of levels, I end up feeling a lot more resentment when I don't acknowledge just like the depth of how I feel, and I try to be better than I am, because then I end up being angry and feeling like my inner child is experiencing an injustice. And I think that that's the most important thing over everything. It's not my job to save any of my family members. Like that is their cross to bear, and I don't go around like actively living a life full of like animosity and rage like at all. It's just like I'm just really not. I just really don't, and I actually am quite cordial to these people in reality. It's just I'm just not I just can't, it just can't, like, it'll just never be okay to me. And I think that that's fine. I think that's true, and I think that's right, and I think that's good. I really do think that you can be at peace, and still, like, angry without living there. Just knowing that, like, I'm never going to tell you that it's okay. You are never going to get that from me. You will have to go to God, to yourself, to some other life if you want to feel okay within yourself. But you're never going to get that confirmation from me, because it's just fundamentally not okay to do that to your child, to any child. It's just not okay. So the end. Now, here's the clip of me talking about, like, narcissism and shit. So here's the thing. I do feel like I've reached the point in my spiritual development where I can be around my family and it doesn't cause my identity to disintegrate, but it still does make me obscenely sad and depleted. And I think this is the line, because that quote that's like, you think you're enlightened, but like, wait till you get around your family. Okay? And like, that's valid, because if there's like a lot of shit, you know what I mean? Like, if there's anything inside of you, your family's gonna bring it out. And a huge part of my healing process actually was like going back into the environments that traumatized me the most, as like a more embodied version of myself, so that I could like finish, some integration work. And it genuinely has been really helpful, because these are environments with people who, even if they don't act like it, even if they act extremely narcissistic, I've always known that on a subconscious level they act that way because they are very desperate for my approval and because they have a very guilty conscience. And these are things, when you still have like family trauma in your energy body, that you can use to your benefit in order to pull these hooks out of yourself and heal. Because you're gonna be able to kind of like start shit and like stir the pot in a way that is extremely balancing and beneficial to you. But there's a line, okay? So when you come from a family that, I don't really believe that anyone is like 100% a narcissist, but like, if you raise your children narcissistically, then that's the only point of view that your children can really see you from. So, because there's a correct way to raise children, and it's called, like, not giving them psychosis by treating their reality as if it's not real, for the sake of your own reality that has nothing to do with them, and actually is filled with a bunch of stuff that you're unwilling to look at and yet still controls you, and you make the elephant in the room of every single interaction, specifically with your children. You actually probably hide these things in daily life, and yet you put them on these little beings, and it truly makes no sense. Like this is truly something that I will never be able to wrap my head around. Like, when you have a child, like, you are being gifted a spiritual awakening in a little person. Like, it's just, the steps are laid out for you, and it's not easy, but the instructions are built in, and I don't know why you wouldn't take them. Like, you're just making stuff so much harder for yourself. But it's really a testament to how little narcissistic parents respect and love their children, because typically they have kids completely for extremely demented reasons, you know, to make a partner love them, or because they're lonely and bored and they think it's like having a cat. And this is also not something you should do to a cat. But, you know, at least the cat can't talk and isn't of the same species and didn't come out of you. I mean, these people often treat like anything that they can have power over this way. So anyway, I came on here because I have spent this whole year, my 8 abundant year, doing this. And I did it in my Grammy's house because it just made sense. She has the room and I needed time to myself, and this wasn't really the intention, but I did have a lot of lingering family stuff, and this happened to be the environment to do it in, because it would not have been possible to do with my mom and my stepdad, because I do not want to be within 10 feet of my stepdad. And that's just a whole other realm that I don't really, I think I've made my point in that realm, and it just, anyway, it wasn't gonna happen. However, so what tends to happen, and this is what happens with like narcissistic abuse dynamics, which, let me just put on the record, I don't believe in outside of a parent-child dynamic, because no one has true power over you unless you are their child, okay? I don't care if you think your boyfriend is narcissistically abusing you, you probably are a narcissist too, and you guys both had shitty parents, and that's really like the real conversation we need to be having. Like, so anyway, what tends to happen is there's this back and forth between the child and the parent, where the child is constantly trying to get the parent to change or see their perspective, or trying to get some sort of like validation or understanding from the parent, and the parent will maybe in some moments seem like they are giving it if it benefits them in some way, or if there's some way that they can manipulate the child in their favor, and then the child thinks like, and the child and the parent probably both think like, oh, we're having a moment of, you know, being on the same page, and yet the page that you both think you're on is completely different, because the parent thinks that they have managed to successfully turn you into their little pet slave, and you are thinking that you have finally gotten the parent to see your point of view. And it goes in a cycle like that, and the only way to break it is to really just let these people go and go live your life, because there's genuinely no winning here, and just trust that like karma will dole out the universe will dole out the karma for these people in the form of simply reaping what they sow. You know, it's punishment enough to end up without you, especially for people who possibly are generally are very, very lonely in life, to the point where they have to like turn a small person into like they have to enslave a small person. Like that's indicative of a very morally and emotionally bankrupt person. So you can really just trust that, like, but it can be hard, you know. Obviously it takes a lot for the children of narcissistic parents to remove all of the hooks that have been really deeply embedded in their psyche and their emotional body and their energy body from a lifetime spent with this person. And also it can be really difficult to get to a place where you feel like you can let go, because like, I mean, the core, I don't know if you can ever really truly like let go of a parent. You can like neutralize the cords, and I've kind of been pondering this for myself lately, because the point, you know, like reincarnation, right? Like we go through these cycles with people, and we have like karmic connections with people. Oh, that just really cleared something. Because I started recording this video because I was like, I'm either gonna scream and like go beat up that old lady, or I'm gonna talk into my camera. So, like for example, like if you like a lot of the times, like for obviously if you have like a narcissistic dynamic with your parents, that is a karmic connection. Okay, like that was someone who intended on using you, whether they knew that or not. Like they had you with the intention of stealing your energy. And that's exactly what we do with karmic partners, right? Like we attract people for the sake of like using them for sex, or using them for emotional like labor, or you know, using them because we're lonely, like someone to like, you know, project onto. Like this is the indicative of a karmic connection. And like once you learn the lesson, you can like let this person go, and maybe you don't meet them in the next life. I know we have like soul families, and I very much believe that, but I also am of the mind that like, even if there are karmic people in our soul family that we might like recurringly meet to kind of learn the same lessons in the next life, I feel like there is a point where when you fully learned the lesson and fully integrated a lesson, you can stop meeting that person, just the same way that you stop encountering people who are going to teach you the same lesson in life. So I'm kind of like, you know, like, can I learn these lessons with my family like so good that like I never have to know these people again in any other life? Because like there has to be a point where I have a life, and like it could be this one, because like this is my like twin flame awakening, you know. Like I can't imagine a lifetime with like all the makings of like such intense spiritual realization than this one. Like I would love, and not that I've been a perfect person. I mean, there's like I've hurt exes, and so maybe I'll have to meet them. You know, maybe they'll hurt me bad in the next life. But there has to be a point where you like have a life where you like are free from karma, like more or less, and you just, you know, you get to like you get your heaven on earth. Like you get to like live in love because you've like forgiven everyone, or like removed everything or whatever. So I haven't quite hacked that one. I would really love for that to be true, because boy, do I want to pull my energy as far away from these people as possible. Just, but like the reason that I started recording this right now is because I've kind of reached a point where I feel like I've sort of done enough on myself to feel like, okay, like I really like what I'm embodying. I really feel like a lot of aspects of self have come back, and it's almost like I've made my point, like my point, like I don't know, like my throat chakra is like properly opened or something. But in some ways I feel like I've been too nice, because another thing that narcissistic parents will do is they hold on to like their delusional reality so strongly. And depending on what kind of narcissistic parent you have, mine happen to be like the extremely like desperate, needy kind that like want to believe that like they're on your good side even if they've like done you so fucking wrong. And even though you've expressed that and it's like obvious, like they like won't believe it. And the only thing that really makes it obvious is like just being like, peace out, dude, like peace out. And just like letting them live with themselves. And so I feel like maybe I like backslid a little bit like recently, just for like a minute, because it's truly baffling to me observing them want, like they will, I can't even I think I just have to leave it there for now, because oh, I think what I was gonna say is like forgiveness. This is basically like the summary, which is like forgiveness doesn't mean that you have to like keep like hang out with them. You know what I mean? Like you get like you're the child. Like get what you need from these people. Like that's your right. Okay? But it's like you've never, like you're not like relying on them for survival. At this point, like they're more reliant on me for survival, because like they haven't done the work that I've done. Like they have not remotely done the healing work that I've done. So I am at the point where I think the goal is like to get to a point where like we're like leaving and being like peace out feels not really like a defense mechanism. It feels like something where you're like, this is for sure. And I do think anytime you do that, it's in your best interest, but you want it to feel like this is like, I'm gonna leave and I'm gonna live my life and be like legitimately happy. You know what I mean? And like just know that like have a sense of kind of completion and like full understanding in your mind as you live your life. You know, be at peace with the separation, with them like dying without you, everything like that. That's, I think that my time here was definitely like a very necessary part of that. And yeah.